everyone, welcome back to the 8-Bit Creature Feature Drive-In Theater, where we dive back into the crypts of cinematic history and take a look at those films that used to flicker across the drive-in screens all over America. On this episode, we blast into the void and travel 140 million miles on a doomed rescue mission to Mars. So join me once again as we take a look at another schlocktastic classic, It, the Terror from Beyond Space. It, The Terror from Beyond Space is a 1958 sci-fi film directed by Edward L. Kahn, written by science fiction author Jerome Bixby, and co-starring Marshall Thompson, Sean Smith, and Kim Spaulding. The plot revolves around a second expedition to Mars, which is launched to rescue the crew of an earlier mission. They find only one survivor, who claims the others were attacked and killed by a hostile alien life form. As they travel back to Earth through the silent darkness of space, crew members start disappearing. It turns out the alien has stowed away on board and is hunting the remaining crew one by one. This film is a great example of what I love about low-budget 1950s sci-fi cinema. I mean, we have shoddy special effects, we have cheap sets, we have average to below average performances, and we've got a guy in a rubber monster suit. I mean, this movie really does check off all of the boxes. It's also a pretty short film as well. It's only about 70 minutes long. And with that being said, outside of a few slowdowns here and there, the movie is paced fairly well. Director Edward L. Kahn had a pretty fruitful career stretching from the 1930s all the way into the early 1960s, directing anything from comedies to film noir. In the 1950s, he directed several B-grade science fiction films, including The Creature with the Atom Brain and Invasion of the Saucermen. His use here of shadows and low lighting creates a lot of tension, and the way a lot of shots are framed really reinforces the claustrophobic feeling of being trapped with really no escape. Simply put, Edward L. Kahn was one of those lesser-known directors who had more than enough experience and more than enough tools at his disposal to get any sort of directing job done. The film starts with a quick introduction from lead actor Marshall Thompson, who plays Colonel Edward Carruthers, the sole survivor of the first expedition to Mars. He helps set the tone by delivering a cryptic and foreboding monologue regarding the crew of the ill-fated first expedition. Having been rescued by the second team, he tries to explain that his crew was killed by an alien life form. However, with no proof of the mysterious creature's existence, Carruthers is blamed for the deaths of the entire crew. Before going any further, I have to tip the hat to Marshall Thompson here. He really does carry the rest of the cast with his performance, and his somber line delivery really channels that of a man who has seen something that no one on Earth could ever fathom witnessing. Sean Smith, better known as Shirley Patterson, plays the role of Ann Anderson. Great name, by the way. The actress was less than thrilled to be cast in a low-budget monster film. According to those on set, she was in a pretty bad mood during the majority of the filming, and at times it actually shows on camera. Kim Spaulding, who plays Colonel Van Heusen, plays things pretty straight as the no-nonsense astronaut who discredits Colonel Carruthers' claims of there being a hostile alien life form. He does spend a good chunk of the movie bedridden with a leg injury, but the character does have a very heroic moment of self-sacrifice in the film's climax. As far as generic 1950s sci-fi stock characters go, the rest of the cast holds their own here, but you can kind of tell that no one really wanted to be involved in the making of this film. As the crew leaves Mars, the alien creature manages to sneak on board the ship and stows away in the cargo hold. It is here where the monster claims its first few victims. During its first couple of appearances, they mostly keep the monster off camera and hidden in the shadows. The alien creature is also impervious to conventional weaponry, and shrugs off bullets and grenades as if they were a minor inconvenience. I need to pause here for a second and address some of the incredibly reckless things that the crew does throughout the course of the film. Namely shooting guns and throwing grenades inside of a spaceship. Not for nothing, but that just seems like a really, really bad idea. One misfire, one fracture to the hull of the ship, and it's game over here. I suppose that's a better fate, though, than being ripped apart by a hulking monster from Mars, though. Speaking of things that you probably shouldn't do on a spaceship, I always get a kick out of the fact that the astronauts sit around smoking cigarettes while they go about their business here. But we do have to remember that this was filmed in a different time. I don't know, maybe the ship just has a very powerful air filtration system or something like that. Eventually, the creature manages to trap the crew on the upper level of the ship. This leads us to one of the most amazing scenes in cinematic history. In order to catch the beast off guard, Carruthers and another crew member decide to exit the ship and spacewalk down to a level below the creature where they can lead it to the engine room and directly expose it to the high levels of radiation from the ship's nuclear reactor. When I say they spacewalk, I mean they literally walk down the side of the ship on a vertical plane. It is incredible. I mean, this is just the perfect example of it being the 1950s and Hollywood not quite understanding how the physics in outer space work and anti-gravity and all that stuff. This is hilarious. Although when I stop and think about it, I mean, it's not really a vertical plane that they're walking down, because in outer space, there's really no such thing as a vertical plane or horizontal plane. Direction like that doesn't really exist. I mean, there's technically no up or down in space either, and that being said, let's move on. I also need to talk about the alien creature, or it, just a little bit more. So the creature was designed by Paul Blaisdell, who was responsible for the effects in numerous B films of this time period, including The Beast with a Million Eyes and It Conquered the World. Not to be confused with this It, that's a completely different It that at some point or another we will get to in the future. I've always liked the design of this creature as well as its portrayal. I mean, this is not a highly intelligent life form here that we're talking about, which was a pretty common depiction of aliens in 1950s sci-fi cinema. No, this is a feral monster driven by violent instincts. There's no reasoning with it, and you can't make peace with it. This thing is out for blood. The creature was played by Ray Crash Corrigan, an actor stuntman who was known for appearing in a lot of westerns. He was also a physical trainer and was also well known for his athleticism. However, Corrigan was unwilling to travel to Paul Blaisdell's home for the monster suit fittings. As a result, the creature's headpiece was too small for Corrigan's rather large head. This resulted in Corrigan's chin actually protruding from the monster's mouth. And in order to conceal this, Blaisdell actually added more teeth and fangs to the monster's mouth. Like a lot of his co-stars, Corrigan was also less than enthusiastic about the project and reportedly showed up on set drunk on a number of occasions. Allegedly, he was also very difficult to work with as far as the director was concerned, and he also damaged the suit numerous times as well. With the sneak attack failing, Carruthers manages to escape back to the upper levels of the ship. Here, they notice that the ship's oxygen levels appear to be getting consumed at a much faster rate than normal. They conclude that this is because the alien creature requires more oxygen due to the thin atmosphere on Mars. In a last-ditch effort, the surviving crew members put on their spacesuits and lure the creature to the top deck for a climactic final stand. Ultimately, It, the Terror from Beyond Space is a lean piece of 1950s sci-fi horror, delivering claustrophobic tension and proto-slasher thrills aboard its doomed spacecraft. While its budgetary limitations are evident, the film does compensate with stark lighting, tight pacing, and a creature design that, while simple, definitely evokes primal fears. Its influence on later genre classics like Ridley Scott's Alien is unmistakable, and that really helps elevate this film from being just another relic of atomic age paranoia and turns it into a foundational building block of cinematic space terror. Like my review for The Giant Claw, I give It, the Terror from Beyond Space a solid 4 out of 5 as well. I've always liked this film. It actually left a pretty big impression on me when I was younger. I remember stumbling on it late at night on cable TV back in the mid-late 90s, possibly on Joe Bob Briggs' old show. I can't quite remember. And I didn't reconnect with it again until my later teen years when I picked it up on DVD on a double feature with another movie called The Monster That Challenged the World, which I will also be covering at some point on this channel. Overall, if you're a fan of spaceships on strings, rubber monster suits, and chain-smoking astronauts, I definitely recommend checking this one out. And that about wraps up this episode of the 8-Bit Creature Feature Drive-In Theater. As always, please like and subscribe, and definitely feel free to leave a comment below. What do you think of It, the Terror from Beyond Space? Do you love it? Do you hate it? When was the first time you saw it? Please comment below. I'd love to know your thoughts. Once again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.